Story number 1. Pulling into my street, I slowed down and drove more carefully. The city council still hadn't fixed the dangerous pothole in the middle of the road, despite my weekly phone calls and letters. Our street was at the bottom of a steep hill, causing cars to enter it at an unacceptably high rate of speed, and I worried that one day there would be an accident. Apparently, this was not worthy of attention, as I never got any response other than, "We're working on it." Well, perhaps I'll consider voting for the opposition in the next election. As I approached the house, I noticed a large car parked in the driveway. I wondered if a friend had come to visit Emma. I was well acquainted with her friends, and they hung out at our place from time to time, so it wouldn't have been weird, but the car didn't look like anything her friends could drive. Emma and I had been dating for 4 years and had been living together for the last year. I knew she was expecting a ring soon, and my plan was to give it to her and propose for life. Turns out she was going to give me my own lifelong memory instead. I parked in the garage and walked into the house announcing my presence. "Honey, I'm back from work!" She was sitting in the living room on the couch with a man I hadn't seen before. I had a very bad feeling about this, but I decided to give her a chance to speak before I got angry. "I didn't realize we had a guest. Who is it, Emma?" "Welcome home, darling. Mark, this is Donovan. I think we need to talk." My fears confirmed, I tried to remain calm about the situation, knowing I wouldn't gain anything by being violent. "What's there to talk about? You know how it looks, and I really hope I'm completely wrong about this, and instead you both have a wonderful explanation." "Well, you see, you know that we've been dating for a long time, and I really want to marry you and grow old together. But I'd like to learn a few things before we settle down for good. I don't want to live to be 60 and regret everything I didn't do, so I want to put it out of my mind while I'm still young and unmarried. I've been seeing Donovan for a while, and I don't want to keep doing it behind your back. I thought it was only fair to let you know. I want to propose to you so we can all be happy. Don't you think it might be a good idea to open things up? An open relationship, honestly? What's honest about it, Emma? It's a load of crap. I hope you don't take it that way. You realize that by agreeing to this, you'll have the freedom to meet other women, but I trust you enough to know that you'll come back to me. I won't pretend to like it, but for a relationship to be successful, both partners have to play by the same rules, so I can't deny you what I want for myself. Give us a chance and you'll see how much stronger we become as a result. Even if you're not completely convinced, I'm sure in a few months you'll see this as just a little helpful shakeup in our relationship. Are you even listening to yourself? You're playing by the wrong rules, aren't you? You're having an affair behind my back, and you have the nerve to pretend it's an open relationship so you don't feel bad about it. A little shakeup. God, you're crazy. Have you always been so dumb and I just didn't notice?" Donovan started talking. "Now listen here. No, shut the hell up. This is between her and me, and I've had enough of this. Both of you get out of my house right now. I'm disgusted by your presence." Emma sighed. "I was really hoping you wouldn't react this way, but I suppose it's possible. I've prepared a bag with a few things, and I'm going to be with him for the next few days to give you a chance to calm down. I'm sure you'll understand what it's like for B." "Get out!" With the look on my face, Emma decided it was in her best interest to comply with my demands. She grabbed her bag and walked over to kiss me, but the anger she saw in my eyes made her change her mind. They both walked out of the house and headed to his car. I walked to the door and, trying to stay as calm as possible, I said, "I hope you know we're done. I'll let you know when you can swing by to get the rest of your stuff. I hope you have the sense to ask someone else to help you since that scumbag is not allowed in my house." Emma stood closer to me, near the passenger seat door, while Donovan approached from the driver's side, facing the road. She tried to make one last request. "Honey, please don't make any decisions right now. I know you're upset, and I'm sorry to be the cause of it, but I'm sure it will make us stronger in the long run. I'll give you a few days before we talk, and—" Her words were interrupted by the loud sounds of an engine running at full power. We watched as a red sports car came down the hill at a very high speed, well beyond the speed limit. The deafening sounds made conversation impossible, so Emma kept quiet, waiting for the car to pass by. I watched as the car approached and realized it was heading straight for a large pothole too fast to notice and react. Diving into the pothole, The car spun out of control and slammed into Donovan's car on the driver's side, the side where Donovan was standing, waiting for Emma to finish her speech. Her look of utter horror told me everything I needed to know. A smile appeared on my lips. Perhaps I would vote for the current mayor after all. Story number 2. When Alice woke up, for a few precious seconds her mind was like a fog, but then the memories of the previous day came flooding back. She got out of bed and got ready for school. Her mother, Debbie, was in the kitchen making breakfast, but Alice paid her no attention as she walked by. "Alice, was all Debbie managed to say before Alice walked out of the house. When Alice came home from school the day before, her mother told her to get ready for dinner. They were going out with James, her mom's boyfriend. James had been a friend of her father's since they were both in high school, and he had started dating Debbie the year after he died. Alice took their relationship coolly. She had always liked James, but the thought of her father's friend dating her mother was strange. Alice couldn't deny that her mom seemed happier than ever, so she never brought it up. When they arrived at the restaurant, a nice Italian place, James was already waiting for them. He had always been polite to Alice and had tried to get close to her over the last year, but Alice kept him at arm's length. She was Daddy's little girl and didn't need a replacement in her life. After exchanging a few pleasantries, they ordered their entrees, and Debbie finally explained why they were here. "Alice, I have some big news for you. James proposed to me last week and I said yes. We're going to be a family again." Alice didn't like the way her mom said it, but she pushed her irritation to the back of her mind to sincerely congratulate her mom. Alice was going to college, and she didn't want her mother to be alone, so even with her reticence, she was happy for the couple. Debbie and James began excitedly telling her about their wedding plans, the places they were looking, and all sorts of details Alice had never thought about. The excitement began to subside when the desserts arrived, and it was then that Debbie told Alice the big news. "Alice, dear, the wedding isn't the only reason we're here for dinner tonight. James and I have thought about it and discussed it, and we both want him to adopt you." "Adopted? Are you crazy, Mom? You've been dating him for a year and Dad died 2 years ago. How can you even suggest that?" Alice shouted indignantly at Debbie. James raised his hand and spoke. "Alice, we know this is a big shock to you, but there's a reason I want to adopt you. I'm your real father. Your mother and I got drunk one night. Your father was out of town and we ended up in bed. Debbie wasn't sure which one of us was the father, but we did a DNA test after you were born and it turned out to be me. I agreed to step aside out of respect for the love your mother had for your father. But now that he's gone, I want to be the father I should have been to you all along." "You two have been having an affair all these years behind Dad's back?" Alice asked, shocked. "It wasn't like that. It's true that we met here and there, but not more than once every couple years for over 15 years, replied Debbie. "And that's normal? All I hear is that my mother is a whore and my sperm donor is a scumbag who betrays a friend for sex." With those words, Alice stood up and headed for the exit. Debbie and James were shocked, but by the time they reacted, Alice was already sitting in a cab. From school, Alice went to the home of Uncle David, her late father's brother. After telling him the whole story and asking for his help with some legal matters, they both went to her house and started packing her things. They were almost finished when Debbie returned from work. "What's up, honey? You had me worried and you didn't even answer my texts." Alice ignored her, continuing to carry all her luggage to the door. "What are you doing, Alice? And what is David doing here? Answer me." "I'm moving in with Uncle David, as I refuse to live under your roof for even one more day. He has a room for me until I go to college in the fall, and he has agreed to help me manage the funds Dad left for me for college, so I won't need you at all. I hope you have a good life with your future husband. As for me, I refuse to betray the man who raised me, so I won't be a part of this. Goodbye, Mom." Debbie dropped to the floor and cried as David took his daughter out of her life. My best friend Dale met the girl he married when he was in college, and I didn't meet her until the day of the wedding. I watched Anita walk down the aisle toward us, I was Dale's best man, and prayed to God that I could sleep with her. She was so cute. Well, it's been a year, and I've been sleeping with Nita for a couple months now, and it doesn't look like she's planning on stopping. At least not anytime soon. This is because about 6 months ago, I received an invitation from Nita to do whatever my little heart desires with her. It was a mistake, of course, but I ended up being able to capitalize on that mistake. It was Valentine's Day, and when I got home from work, I pulled the mail out of the mailbox and put it on the kitchen table to read. There were a few bills, a flyer from Safeway, and half a dozen Valentine's Day cards. One of them had unfamiliar handwriting on it, so I opened it first. The card was homemade, and on the outside it said, "Happy Valentine's Day, you fucking stud. Open the card to get Valentine's Day gift certificates." I opened the card, and inside were 6 pictures of a very naked Nita in several sexually suggestive poses, and a 20 by 25 centimeter piece of paper with a note attached. The sheet was divided into small squares that said something like, "Write for one night, including a month." The attached note said, "Dale, I couldn't think of what to get you, so I thought I'd give you what you seem to like best. With love, Nita." Somehow Nita mixed up the cards, and I got the one meant for Dale. I wondered what would happen if I went to his house and tried to ring up the coupons. Nita would probably call the police. I considered calling Nita and telling her about her mistake, but decided against it. It would cause a major disagreement between her, Dale, and me. And besides, I'd have to return the pictures. That evening, I got a call from an anxious Dale. "Did you get your Valentine from Nita yet?" I told him no, and he said, "When you get it, please don't open it, okay?" She mixed up a couple of letters, and one, a rather obscene one meant for me, was sent by mistake to you. He called every day for the rest of the week, but I always said I never got his card. Eventually, he stopped calling, but I know that for the next 2 weeks he kept a close eye on everyone Nita had sent a card to see if they had changed in his presence. It was 3 weeks after Valentine's Day when I saw Nita again. It was at a dance at the Elks, and all night, every time I looked in her direction, I caught her gaze on me. The look on her face spoke for itself. "It was you. I know it was you who got that Valentine." I danced with her 3 times that night and felt that she was waiting for some remark from me that would let her know for sure. During the 3rd dance, I said, "Curiosity has been killing me for the last couple weeks. What was in that Valentine you sent that got Dale so excited?" Nita gave me a shy smile and asked, "You mean you don't know yet?" I smirked and said, "Yes, I don't know yet, but I want to know." Nita gave me a long, probing look before she said, "It was something very, very private, and I pray to God that it never comes out in public." Don't worry, my sweetie, I thought. I won't share it with anyone. I saw her again 3 weeks later when I threw a small party at my house. In the middle of the party, Nita came up to me and asked, "Can I walk through your den?" I had never seen a hardened bachelor's apartment before. I had a hunch that she might want to sniff something out, because I was sure she was certain that I was the one who had gotten the wayward Valentine. I had already collected the compromising evidence and taken it out of the apartment for this party, so I told her to feel free to wander around as much as she liked, but to stay away from the top drawer of my dresser. That's where I keep all my really personal stuff. Knowing that this would now be the first place she would go, I had already salted the mine, or started the pump, by putting a lot of sexual material in that drawer. I had dated and slept with many free-spirited ladies, and had photos of me with all of them in various sexual manifestations. There were even a few pictures among them of the 3 of us with Linda and Nancy, who were also at the party with their husbands, and who, by the way, didn't know about their wives' extracurricular activities. Nita was going to see it for all it was worth. An hour later, I was in the kitchen filling an ice bucket when Nita walked in. "What are you? An old dog or something? Linda and Nancy at the same time?" I looked at her reproachfully, and she grinned. "Save the indignation, Romeo. As soon as you said stay out of that drawer, you knew right away I'd head straight for it. And you know what I was looking for. I know you got Dale's Valentine." I started to say something, but Nita put her finger to my lips and said, "Don't bother denying it." I sat down and looked through all the cards I had sent, and only 2 of them were big enough to hold what I had put in, yours and Dale's. I kissed the finger she put to my lips and said, "Very possibly, But that doesn't mean that our efficient postal service ever delivered that letter to my house. And if they ever manage to get it here, you know my curiosity will make me open it, so maybe you'll just tell me what I find." She smiled slightly at me and said, "Something that will go very well with what you have in your top drawer. Just out of curiosity, were Linda and Nancy before they were married?" I gave her what I hoped was a wicked grin. "No, every Tuesday and Thursday." "It's not very gentlemanly of you to brag about it." "Who's bragging? Before you came into my bedroom, only 3 people in the world knew about it. Now you know, and since you asked the question, I've answered it. It will still be a secret until you tell me." She shook her head negatively. "I happen to like them both, so I wouldn't want to spoil their fun." And then she surprised me by rising on her tiptoes and kissing me on the lips. And then she said, "Or yours," and left me standing in the kitchen. Over the next 2 weeks, I saw Nita 3 or 4 times, and she always asked me if her card had arrived, and I always said no, but I was wary. One day, Dale called me and said his company was sending him out of town on business for a couple days, and asked if I minded if he told Nita that she could call me if she had any problems or needed help. I told him he already knew the answer to that question, and he laughed and said he knew I wouldn't let him down, but it was just the polite thing to ask. The very next evening, I got a call from Nita. She had a flat tire, and when she went to change it, she found that her spare tire was flat too. Could I please come and help her? I picked her up and then took both tires to the service station to have them fixed. We were told they wouldn't be ready until 2 hours later, so I drove Nita to my house and invited her to have coffee while we waited. About halfway through my cup of coffee, I suddenly sat up and said, "Oh shit, I've got to get you out of here," and started going through my pockets looking for my car keys. I handed them to Nita. "Hurry up, you need to get out of here." She looked at me. "Why?" "Because it's Tuesday night and Nancy and Linda will be here any minute." We got up from the table and headed for the door just as the bell rang. The problem with apartments is that they only have one door. "Well, it looks like Linda and Nancy are going to find out what you know about them." Nita looked around frantically for a place to hide, which is another problem with apartments. There's nowhere to hide. "I'll go to the bedroom. You chase them away. Tell them you have the flu, headache, whatever." And she hurried into the bedroom before I could say no. I didn't have the slightest intention of giving up my evening with the 2 girls. I was thoroughly enjoying myself with both of them and had no intention of doing anything that would spoil our arrangement with them. I opened the door and saw the 2 of them standing there together. "It took you too long. We were beginning to think you didn't need us anymore." And they both walked in and headed straight for the bedroom. Well, I thought, this should be interesting as I followed them. But when we entered the room, Nita was nowhere to be seen. The bed was too low for her to hide under, and I know she didn't risk jumping from the 3rd floor to the ground, so that meant she ducked into the closet. Before the girls got dressed and said goodbye, we did a few more things, including Linda and Nancy pouncing on each other while I took pictures. I walked them to the door and then returned to the bedroom to face Nita's wrath. I walked into the bedroom expecting to see Nita preparing to throw something at me, but instead I saw her taking off her clothes. "You bastard! You were supposed to get rid of them, not bring them here. Now look what you've done to me." She lay down on the bed and looked up and down at me. I know I'd said earlier that I'd wanted to sleep with her as soon as I saw her for the first time, and the thought that I'd love to do it had never left me. But Dale was my buddy, and I was never going to molest his wife, and I told her so. "I can't, Nita. Dale's my best friend, and you're his wife. Don't bullshit me. You let this happen to me, and you have to take care of me. Dale isn't here to do that, you are." I shrugged. "What do you want me to do?" "I don't care a damn bit. Just do something." "What the hell, why don't you?" I walked over to my dresser, opened the top drawer, pulled out a Valentine's Day gift certificate, and handed it to her. "Take your pick." She looked at it and said, "Asshole, I knew you had it." She tore off one of the coupons and held it out to me. I read, "Eligible for 1 all-night sex session or as many as you can." I looked at her and she looked me straight in the eye. "Hurry the hell up. I really need this." I fucked her twice, and then she asked me to take her home. I need to be there when he calls. When Dale called, it was the 3rd time we'd done it that night. She told him about the malfunction, how I had come to the rescue and that I was going to drive her back in the morning to pick up the tires. He's taken very good care of me, kiddo. I'm glad you have such good friends that I can rely on when I need something. Oh, yeah, baby, I thanked him. Yeah, baby, I love you. I'll see you the day after tomorrow. Bye. I can't see Nita as often as I'd like. The only time we can see each other is when Dale goes out of town. He's usually gone for 4 or 5 days, and Nita and I have non-stop sex when that happens. Yesterday was my birthday, and I got a card in the mail from Nita, and inside were 2 pages of coupons, and some of them are really very interesting. I'm especially looking forward to the one that says, "Write for one stormy night with you, Linda and Nancy." That should be very interesting indeed.